guys, I'm Bethany.
And I'm Kristen.
And this is Looking for the Middle.
A very special episode, or start of a month of special episodes, all about online dating. We have been teasing this for a few months now. Yeah, a while.
Oh, stop.
Bethany's favorite word. But we have got a lot of really great content in store for y'all over the next few weeks. Y'all know, if you've been around for a while, we don't start our seasons till September. So in the summer, we try to come up with some different things we can talk about. And we've had so many questions coming in the past, really since COVID hit, about online dating.
Understandably.
Because, it's, risen in popularity even more. And so we thought, why don't we just do a month's worth of content totally curated to that? So here we are.
Yeah. We are going to, we don't have this like super strictly planned out, but the idea of the theme or whatever you want to call it is that we're gearing this towards someone who maybe hasn't ever dated online, or has dated online but not recently, or has dated online and really didn't like it. Those are kind of, that's who we're picturing when we're talking about this. And so what we want to do with this month is kind of take you through in order from beginning to end how to hopefully have a successful experience with that. So today's episode is really going to look at 10 things you should know before you get started with online dating. So, as is evident by the title, we have a list of 10 things here. We're going to walk through them. And these are things when it comes to just like mindset, just different things to know before you go in, things maybe we both wish we knew before we had tried this out. We kind of learned along the way. And I think that's one thing that makes online dating like tougher, or one, it's just confusing and awkward to begin with. But two, we don't have anyone teaching us, hey, here's how you do this, because I did it before you. Like we're the
guinea pigs,
the trailblazer generation. I mean, I guess maybe some of like generation, like Gen X did like super ancient online dating before, like, but not like it is now. It wasn't mainstream.
Like You've Got Mail.
Yes, You've Got Mail. Or like it was the thing, it was like, oh, you're dating online? Like, oh, like, oh, you bless your heart kind of thing. Like it wasn't, I mean, now it's super mainstream. Everyone meets that way. There's not that stigma is completely gone. And I think, any slight remnants of it, COVID did away with.
Yes.
For sure. So we're all figuring this out as we go. So we are going to just kind of talk through some of the things we've learned and we wish we knew ahead of time and go from there.
It's going to be great.
So do we just want to jump right in?
Yeah, let's jump in.
Okay.
Start off with the first one.
So the first thing I would tell someone when you're deciding to date online is to go into it with a mindset that you are going to pace yourself. And what I mean by that is you can't go into it with this pie in the sky mentality that you're going to meet your husband the first week or even month that you're online. The chances of that happening are pretty slim. So if you go into it, you've signed up for a 6-month membership to some website, but after a week and you haven't met anyone, you're like, well, this is pointless. You're going to be really frustrated for the other 5 months and 3 weeks that you have left. But go into it, and we'll talk more about expectations later, but go into it just with an expectation of just seeing what's out there. Hopefully you'll meet some cool people, but you're not looking to meet your husband after the first few days.
No, well, and it can be kind of filled with pressure too at the beginning because everybody's new.
Yeah.
And so there's this plethora of choices, and so you're filtering through all of them and you're like, I don't like any of these guys.
Yeah.
Or, I did talk to a couple and it's not working out. I'm like, okay, well, I'm never going to get this volume again. So you're like, well, how is this going to, but
right. Just
don't panic. Like no. I've done this. Don't panic. Like just be patient and pace yourself. Exactly like what you just said.
Yeah. And then on a practical level for that, one thing I would say, especially when you're brand new and every guy on there you've never seen before because it's all brand new, you'll realize as you go through these like peaks and valleys. You'll go through a 2 or 3 month long span where you're not talking to anyone. You're trying, no one's interested, nothing goes anywhere, there's just no one. And then all of a sudden you'll be like, oh my word, there's 5 people trying to talk to me. So one thing I would tell you from a practical place is, especially when you're new, don't reach out to or contact every guy that seems interesting all at once. And you would think you would want to, because it's like, hey, it's a numbers game. Let me send a smile, a wink, a message to everyone that I've seen, so hopefully someone will respond. The reason not to do that is because think of it this way. What if they did all respond at once? And now you've got these 5 guys who all seem really great, but you can't really talk to all of them at the same time. So you're going to have to let some of them fall by the wayside. And you can't really go back to that then later. So pace yourself. If you come across a bunch of guys who seem interesting, reach out to a couple of them, see what happens, add the rest of them to your favorites list or whatever else so you can go back to their profile later. But don't message all of them at once, because you might burn an opportunity that you don't have to.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Don't pull a bachelorette.
Don't do that. Don't offer anyone a rose.
Yeah, no.
Don't.
None of that.
No. Which, we'll get more into the specific apps later, but Hinge has a thing now where you can like someone or you can send them a rose if you want to stand out. And I'm like,
oh, that's too close.
I get the concept, but I'm like, I feel creepy sending some dude a rose.
Will you accept this rose?
Yeah, that's what I feel like.
That's weird.
Yeah.
That's so weird.
Just, I'm like,
that's very new.
Oh, yeah, it's pretty new.
Oh, man.
So,
okay.
anyway, we'll get more into that in the weeks to come.
Yes, for sure.
So, second thing, remember that all of these people are actual people behind their pictures. It's very easy to forget when either you're swiping or you're scrolling, whatever it is, and there's just person after person after person. Remember that there's a real person behind that. Usually, I mean,
there's always exceptions.
There's the catfish exceptions, but most of the time, there are actual people behind the picture. So just remember that. And I mean, that comes down to when you're talking to them, be respectful of their feelings. And I guess when I say when you're talking to them, it's probably going to be more likely when you don't want to keep talking to them. Remember, it's really easy to hide behind a computer screen and just not say anything. But that's a real person. It's not just some figment of your imagination. Like, there's a real person on the other end of that computer screen who you're ignoring, who you're being rude to. And just don't do that.
No. Treat people the way you want to be treated.
Yeah.
If you wouldn't want a guy to, ghost you, be rude to you, say something, snarky when you're trying to when he's trying not to talk to you anymore. Don't do that to other people.
Yeah. And don't kind of on the flip side, don't make it seem like you're more interested than you are.
Yes.
Just
great point.
There will be the temptation to let things go on longer than they should just so there's someone that you're talking to. Whether that's because you feel this pressure that, okay, I've paid this money and I'm online and everyone knows that I am, so I've got to be there. There has to be something. That don't fall into that pressure. Like, if you're not into it, don't string them along just because it's fun to be like, oh yeah, I'm talking to someone online. Like, no, don't do that.
No, not cool.
And I will just throw this out there too. Remember, when you're looking at all of those pictures of all the different people, looks aren't everything. I'm not saying they're not something, but if a guy seems really cool and you're having a good conversation, or you're trying to decide if you even want to have a conversation, give it a little. He may really quickly become, oh, he's really cute because you're having a good conversation. Or you're like, oh, this is not a fun conversation, and at least now I know. Like,
yeah.
Give it, don't make snap judgments based off of just pictures. We don't appreciate it when guys do that to us. So don't do that to them. And at the same time, just remember, guys are way more good looking in person.
I was literally just about to say that.
Pictures.
Very few guys look as good in pictures as they do in person.
Why is that?
I don't know.
I don't feel like it's the same for us.
I don't think so. I look better in pictures a lot of times, I feel like, than I do in person. What I get really frustrated with is when I look at myself in the mirror or like selfie, I'm like, man, I look good. And then someone takes like a can and I'm like, ew, no, what? That's a terrible angle. Like, what are we doing? This was not what I looked like when I moved, walked out of my house this morning. But
think
guys.
about this.
Okay.
You've never actually seen your face. You've either looked in a mirror.
I know.
Or you've seen it in a picture.
That's so weird.
Isn't that weird?
That's trippy.
Yeah. Anyway, that's not the point of today.
But yes, guys not always, most of the time look even better in person than they do in pictures. I think we just have more practice at taking pictures,
They never
Yes.
have the right angle.
That's why they
never-
always take them in the
whatever.
car.
They're always in the
Always
car.
in the car. I'm like, what are y'all doing? Do you not have anything else to like go off of?
No, they don't think about it. Like, we're like, okay, well, I need one from this angle, and I need one that's like casual, and one that's me doing something and full body, and this like.
They don't.
And then this guy, I'm like, you have 5 selfies in your car.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, you have on different shirts, but otherwise, I think I could just replace your face. I would, for all I know, you photoshopped your shirt.
Yeah.
They look like the exact same
Yes.
picture.
Pro tip: if you're like me and you want to stalk a little on social media, look for pictures they've been tagged in,
Yeah.
not the ones they posted themselves, because it's not as like curated, quote unquote.
That's such a good point. Yeah,
And
if you
so-
found him on Facebook or Instagram, go over to the
tagged pictures, and then you get a little more like, not that what they post isn't realistic, but like
But
you get a
it's
different
not
perspective.
The highlight reel as much.
Yes.
Yeah, I definitely, because sometimes I'm like, oh, I hope people don't go to my my tagged pictures.
Yes, exactly. So just a little pro tip there.
Okay. So let's move on now. Let's talk about expectations. And
My favorite word. She said sarcastically. Sorry.
with
Continue.
only a hint of sarcasm.
Yes.
Oh, that's funny. No, the biggest thing I would say about expectations when it comes to online dating is that they can very much work against you in a multitude of ways. Like we were talking about, if you go into it expecting to meet someone that's going to be a serious relationship or you're going to marry within the first couple of weeks, that's an expectation that is most likely, not always, but most likely going to be unmet. And then I think one thing I have fallen prey to is I expect a conversation to go a certain way. And you know how we do? It's like, okay, well, I'm going to say this, and then he'll say this, and then I'll say this. And you've got your fourth message down the line, like, and it's this really cute comeback to whatever he's going to say, all planned out. But he doesn't say anything like what you're expecting, or what you really, he doesn't say what you would have said.
Mm-hmm.
That's really what it comes down to.
Which isn't a bad thing because he's
No,
a dude.
Exactly. But in your mind, you are going to find yourself being tempted to say, well, we're not compatible. Like, if we were good together, he would have said X, Y, Z. And so you're going to be thinking, well, we're just not hitting it off. We're not getting along. When in reality, you're just expecting him to carry on a conversation like you would, instead of taking the time to get to know him and evaluate the conversation for what it is. So if you go into a conversation with an expectation that it go a certain way, or you're going to just cut it off if it doesn't, I think you're going to end up being frustrated and disappointed and potentially miss out on some good opportunities too, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And one thing I want to add on to this that I have done too many times is not only do you need to worry about your own expectations when it comes to online dating, but don't let other people's expectations for online dating ruin your experience. And all my people pleasers in the house can relate to this, but it's really easy for people. They mean well. They ask you how it's going, but if you're not talking to anybody or you're not seeing anyone and it's been a few months and whatever, you can start to feel like a failure because you're like, oh, well, I thought you were online, and are you on enough sites, and are you talking to enough people, and what about this, and whatever. And you're like, I'm trying. It's not like I just signed up and then deleted the app for 6 months. Like, I am trying. Yeah. But when it's not working, and I think that's where it's a little different than when you're not online dating. You're like, oh, if I meet somebody, great, and if not, because it's not as targeted, I guess. But in reality, it's basically the same thing. Yeah. Like, I could meet somebody online tomorrow. I could meet a guy at, Target tomorrow.
Yeah.
And it's just viewed differently by a lot of other people. So I would just, be gracious when people say things, don't take anything too personally, but don't let your mind go down that rabbit trail of, oh, well, they asked me all these questions and I didn't have any answers, and I'm not, they're right. I haven't gone on a date in the last 2 months. Like, am I wasting my time? Am I doing something wrong? Why don't guys like me? You can go all the way down that road.
Snowball effect there.
Yes. So just be mindful of other people's expectations just as much as you are your own.
I think that's so good. And I think I'll go out on a limb here and say the majority of those comments and expectations are going to come from people of a different generation.
Preach.
It's probably going to be your parents. It's going to be people at your church who are older, who are just very invested in your love life.
Who got married when they were 19.
So great.
Yeah.
But that's one thing to keep in mind is they don't know how it is. They don't know what people have this idea of online dating, and until you have tried it, you just don't know.
It's so true.
And so don't write them off completely. You have to walk this fine line of not just taking any sort of constructive help and writing it off because you're like, well, you don't know, or you haven't tried this, so you can't say anything. Like, people are going to be right about things every once in a while. Like, there are going to be things you need to change. So don't write that off. But there's a fine line then of just because they don't understand and their concept of what online dating is completely off. Don't let that make you feel like you're doing something wrong, because what they're expecting, or what their expectation of online dating is not the reality of it. And so if that's the case, then I think, yeah, you be gracious, you be kind, but you don't have to let their thoughts affect your view of your success or failure at online dating.
Definitely.
One other thing I will say with expectations is you have to be really careful with this. And I have done this right and I have done this wrong. But remember, when you're reading a guy's profile and you start talking to him and you're having this conversation, the profile, and then especially the beginning of that conversation, is not going to be a complete picture of who this person is. And like we've talked about before, where there are holes, our minds are going to work to fill those holes with our assumptions, with our ideals, with our just ideas of who this person is and what his personality is and how things will be down the road, because I'm sure this is what he's like. When in reality, we just don't know those things yet. And so you can find yourself in this place that when you meet down the road in person, then you're inevitably going to be let down. So be really careful not to fill in the blanks with your own imagination, if that makes sense. The blanks of what you don't know about him yet, with your idea of, oh, he's probably really funny, or he's probably really whatever, when you just haven't talked about it. You don't know yet. You got to meet him in person to figure those things out. And I did this. I talked to a guy once for it was more of a distance issue, and it was kind of for a longer period of time. And so we talked a good bit. And so I had made this persona in my head based on the information I had of what he was like. And it was accurate in some ways, but in others it wasn't. It's almost like I was trying to make a 3D person out of only 2D information. It just wasn't complete. It wasn't. So I think this is going to be more of an issue if there's distance involved, if you're having to talk a lot on the front end. So keep that in mind, and just be really careful of managing your expectations there. And this is why I will say, meet in person as quickly as you can. As quickly as it's safe, as quickly as distance allows. Talk on the phone, FaceTime, whatever. Get it from 2D on a piece of paper to 3D, talking to that person as quickly as possible, so that you don't have time for either of your expectations to get off when it comes to that.
Yes, that is great advice. That's a good analogy too, to like the 2D and 3D thing.
Yeah, I just
like
thought of that on the spot.
So brilliant.
Yes, this makes sense.
So brilliant.
Okay. So, next thing, don't isolate yourself. This whole online dating very much lends itself to that, just because of the medium that it is. But two, we as people, when we don't understand something fully, or we don't want to be embarrassed, we're not good at it, quote unquote, or whatever else, we don't want that displayed for everyone to see. We don't want our inadequacies, I can't talk, or our failures to be broadcast for other people to know. Even if it's just the failure of, oh, I'm talking to this really great guy, never mind, he ghosted me. Like, that, honestly, that doesn't bother me anymore, because I'm like, that says more about him than it does about me. And so I don't take it personally. So pro tip, don't take ghosting personally. It's totally on them. So I don't care if people, I'm like, yeah, dude ghosted me. I don't, like, it doesn't bother me anymore.
Yeah.
5 years ago, it probably would have. So anyway, that's a rabbit trail for another day. But anyway, resist that temptation to just kind of isolate yourself and not bring people in, because we talk a lot about not dating in a bubble, and it includes online dating. And I know it can be weird and awkward and uncomfortable, but bring your community in and let them be a good filter for your interactions, because they know you well. They know things that would be like a good fit for you. We all, you're talking to a guy and you're like, okay, well, there's this thing that's not ideal and that thing that's not ideal. And okay, well, the last 3 guys I've dated have had or done or whatever, and it was not good, but maybe it'll be different. We talk ourselves into those things because we want to be with someone. So if you're bringing your community in there, that objective look into saying, hey, maybe this isn't a good idea, or hey, maybe this guy that you're wanting to ignore, you should talk to, like that kind of thing. So I would say, especially if you're new to online dating or you're prone to leading with your emotions, like we've talked about, where those things kind of are very forward in your dating life, I think especially with those 2 things, you really want to bring your community in.
Yeah, I think that's good. And I think that, a lot of areas of life are like that. It's always good to have another set of eyes and another, somebody to, again, my personal experience, y'all know I lead with my emotions on things. Anytime I've been on an app, well, and especially I would talk to my people who are really quick to throw in the towel on this too, because you can really talk yourself out of something really quickly. Whereas like the last time I got on Hinge, I told Lauren, my roommate, I was like, I'm going to get on Hinge. She was like, you have got to stay on it for at least a week.
Did you?
I did. I know, right? Shocking. Yeah, y'all couldn't see the look. Bethany just gave me like, oh my gosh. And yeah, because my habit was I download a dating app on one day and then less than 48 hours later it was gone. And she's like, you need to keep it at least a week. And then if you still hate it, you can get off, which I did delete it after a week. But that was the longest I made it on a swiping app in a long time. But it was just that, because she would check and she'd be like, you still got it? You still looking? I was like, I am. And so, yeah, like nothing came of that. But at least having that kind of, other person in with you makes it easier, even if it's kind of clunky as you're figuring it out. So I'll start the next one, because I feel like this is something that this is probably one of my favorite things. Bethany made this list and I literally looked at it. I was like, man, this is all so good. This is probably my favorite one, because I think a lot of times with online dating, we can compartmentalize a lot. And so number 5 on the list is don't close yourself off to quote unquote real opportunities to meet people. And I think if you have kind of an all or nothing view, you think, okay, well, I'm online, this is how it's going to happen. Right. And it's like, no, you could still meet the dude at Target. You could still, be set up with somebody. This is another option. Yes. It's not the only way. And
this is a tool in your toolbox. It's not the entire toolbox.
Exactly. And so just keep that in mind of, still go out with your friends, still go do fun things. Don't just, sit on your couch every night with, a pint of ice cream and just swiping back and forth of like, who am I going to meet tonight? So still live your life. Nothing else about your life needs to change as you do this.
Well, yeah, it's like, who is it? Stephanie Mae Wilson that you've talked about. You should view, this is what she says, you should view dating apps, dating websites, all of these things. They're called dating apps, but they're really introduction apps. You want to get out of the online world as quickly as possible. And then you're not online dating. You're online meeting people, and then you're dating in person.
Exactly.
So don't stop your in-person life for trying to meet someone, because then what are you going to go back to? Once you're dating, it's like, oh, what do you do for fun? Well, apparently I sit and look at my computer. Yeah. You're like, don't do that.
I looked for you. That's what I did for fun.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, don't do that.
Yeah, no.
So then one that doesn't need, it's not going to need a ton of explanation.
This made me laugh when I read this.
You will at some point think that you are crazy. Crazy for even thinking this was a good idea, crazy for trying it, crazy for staying on it, crazy for talking to this guy, crazy for not talking to that guy. crazy while you're talking to someone, because really they're crazy most likely. Like, it will happen. It is normal. You're not weird.
Yeah.
You're also probably not actually crazy.
No.
It just feels like you are.
Yeah.
Because it's such a weird way of meeting people.
Yeah. But at the same time, like, over the past year and a half, what is it, the top way that people are meeting people now?
I think
like,
it's pretty close.
Up there. So, like you were saying at the beginning, the stigma is changing drastically from what it was even 10 years ago, much less like 20, whenever, you know, it was creepy and, you know, there was dial-up internet.
Yeah.
Y'all remember that? My 80s and 90s
probably don't.
I know my 80s and 90s people know. The high schoolers that are listening are like, what are you talking about? Google it.
Yeah.
It'll give you this awful noise that used to play whenever we had to connect to the internet.
Yeah.
But yeah, the stigma's changing, and so this is more normal than you probably think it is.
Yes.
And
for sure.
There may be a handful of people that try to convince you that it's not, but if we're being really honest, this is very normal. This is how
it goes.
It goes now for a lot of people. So
I think for a lot of people at this point too, if you've never dated online before, some of the weirdness, it's not going to be, oh my word, I'm dating online and this is weird. It's, oh my word, I haven't dated online before and everyone else has. And so just, we've talked about it with just, I say regular dating. I hate that.
Regular dating.
With
in-person meeting.
Conventional dating.
Yeah.
Yeah, whatever. We've said it before, like, no one else knows as much about dating as you think they do. It's the same with this. Just because you've never been on a dating app before in your life does not mean you are behind the curve when it comes to knowing what to do. All that you don't know is the ins and outs of the actual use of the app, the features of the specific app or site you're on. The rest of it is just having conversations with people. Now, sure, are there little tricks and things you can do to get your profile noticed or stand out to someone? Yes, absolutely. And we're going to talk about those as we go through the specific apps in the coming weeks. But it's just having a conversation with someone. Yeah. Be yourself. Just have fun. Like, it's okay.
Yeah. Well, that takes the pressure off to think about. I'm just having conversations with people. Like, I'm just talking to people.
Yep. Absolutely.
And it's on your phone. Like,
you do this all day.
You don't
anyway.
have to wash your hair or put on normal clothes or anything. Like, it's perfect.
Yeah. The worst is that you're talking to someone. They're like, oh, hey, we should, you want to like FaceTime or we should talk, whatever. And I'm like, no, this works very differently for girls.
I'm going to need at least an hour. Heads up.
Yeah.
Please and thank you.
Oh, man. Okay. So next. The next point on our list is you get what you pay for. And what I mean by that is there are plenty of free, quote unquote, apps. Now, most of them are becoming less and less free.
Yeah, I know. Talking to you, you've kind of like...
Yeah, that's what... When it first started, Tinder, Bumble, Hinge, Coffee Meets Bagel. Those are the ones I've used. Well, I haven't ever actually used Tinder, but I know it's a big one. Mm-hmm. But Hinge, Bumble, and Coffee Meets Bagel are the ones I've used more extensively. And several years ago, they were basically completely free. There was just a couple little features that you had to pay to use. But now, not the case. I think they have realized how much money there is in this, and they're taking advantage. So, but still, the price of those apps compared to some of the more traditional sites, eHarmony, Match, Christian Mingle, they are far cheaper. So that's where I will say you get what you pay for. I'm not saying that there aren't good guys on Bumble, on Hinge, on Coffee Meets Bagel. I've dated people from meeting on those apps. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is, as a general rule, the quality of the matches you will get is commensurate to the financial investment put forth in finding them. Because if you're serious about finding someone, you don't mind paying a little bit of money to do it. If you're just looking to have a good time, or you, quote, don't know what you're looking for, which I'm sorry, if you're a man in your late 20s or early 30s and don't know what you're looking for, you need to get off all the apps, you need to close out all the sites, and you need to figure out what you're looking for before you waste another girl's time. It's a soapbox for me right now.
Amen.
And I don't have any patience for it. It's ridiculous.
Yes.
But anyway, just the maturity level sometimes, the quality of the matches is just better on the sites that you pay for. So if you are able from a financial standpoint to invest in a website, maybe wait till we're going to go kind of in depth into all of them over the next few weeks. So save your pennies, wait, then make a decision, because we'll kind of talk about for each one what the pros and cons are as far as, hey, if you're like this might be a better site for you or not. We'll kind of go into some of that stuff. So it's worth the investment is all I'm going to say. I really think it is. You will be less frustrated and less prone to thinking you're crazy. And if you do invest in one of the more conventional sites, and I will say this, none of them know who we are. We're not trying to talk you into something because we get some sort of deal from it. This is just my experience, and this is what I found to be true. Anyway, you get the point with that. So on the flip side of that, next point, it's okay to take a break. I think it used to be, didn't it used to be you could do most of them for like 3 months, a subscription?
It used to be. Now it's like 6.
Yeah, most places now, the smallest like subscription you can sign up for, like eHarmony, Match, those places, is a 6-month subscription. So when you sign up, you're committing to this for 6 months of your life, basically, if you're going to get your money's worth out of it. And so within that, you don't have to be nonstop for 6 months. I know this is something that you are a big proponent of. Take a weekend off. Don't open the app. Delete the app. Whatever you need to do, and just kind of regain your mental clarity.
Yeah, well, because it all starts to feel very monotonous if you don't break it up. So you get a little bit of like, it's kind of the same thing with like social media. Like I haven't been really posting or like looking at social media very much over the last probably 2 weeks.
Yeah.
It's been so nice.
Right?
And I wasn't doing it on purpose. Like it didn't intentionally happen or anything, but
Yeah.
I kind of was this morning. I'm like, I haven't really been on social media very much, but this has been kind of great.
Yeah.
And so kind of view, your online dating stuff as the same. If you need to take 3 or 4 days, be like, I need a detox.
Yeah.
And then come back, because it's kind of like, so for the fellow introverts,
Yeah.
like you go, you've got plans 5 or 6 nights in a row, and then you either take one day off or you fill that one day, and then you've got another 5 days. You're going to be exhausted and cranky, and no one's going to want to be
Who
around
wants
you.
to date you in that state?
Exactly. What your boundaries are. The same thing can go here of, hey, if you've been, talking and trying to, weed through people.
Or not talk. Or if you're like,
Yeah.
oh my word, I can't take one more rejection.
Yes. And, you just feel like you keep hitting dead ends. Don't just keep thinking, if I waste days. Like, no, take a break. It's good for, just a palate cleanser a little bit.
Well, and you'll realize too, like there's the initial sign up. Oh my word, everyone on here is new. And it can be a little overwhelming, but like you have so much to go through. Well, pretty quickly you'll realize, okay, there's all these people, but let's say 60% of them are actually still logging in regularly. Because most sites will show you when someone was last online. And then within that, like it's not, once you've kind of gone through the initial shock, it's not like that many people are signing up overnight every day. So after a month or 2, you're going to kind of have seen everyone.
It'll be more of a trickle than a floodgate.
Exactly. It's more of a trickle at that point. And so it's okay to log off for a weekend or a week and let that build up a little. Then you come back and you're like, oh, here is a plethora of new people for a change, because it's been a week since you logged in. So it is okay to take a break. You're not wasting something. You're not missing out, because let's remember, in all of this, God is sovereign. Mm. If there's a guy who signs up on a Tuesday who's supposed to be your husband, but you're in the middle of a week-long break, then he's still going to be there next Monday when you log back in. Like, you're not going to mess that up because God didn't realize you were on a break from eHarmony this week. Like,
we were on a break.
That's not how this is going to go. It's okay. So it is okay to take a break.
That's good.
And then, so the next one, we kind of already touched on this, but we'll hit it again, of don't let someone who's never tried online dating make you feel weird about it. Just because they don't understand it or they don't fully grasp it because they've never done it themselves. Again, this is probably going to be people who are of a certain generation. Don't let them make you feel bad about it. Now, that's more in just the particulars of online dating as a whole. There are caveats to this in that if someone's saying, hey, this is your mentor or your parent or someone who knows you well and is saying, hey, this might not be the best idea for you right now because of XYZ. You need to work through this, or you just got out of a relationship, or hey, think about this. This is not saying just because you want to get online and someone's giving you a caution, but they've never tried online dating means you can throw that caution to the wind. I'm saying just when someone doesn't understand online dating as a whole, and they're trying to make you feel weird about being online, don't let them do that. But if someone has genuine concern or thoughts on maybe this isn't a good time, or hey, maybe, you know, the last 3 guys you've dated have all had this issue, and now you're talking to this other guy who seems to be showing a lot of the same signs, you don't say, Mom, you don't understand online dating, or Mentor, you don't understand online dating, so I'm not going to take your advice. That is not what we're advocating here.
Yeah. And I think this is something too where, like, if you have somebody who hasn't ever online dated, who keeps kind of is not in one of those caveats, but kind of keeps circling back, it's okay for you to help them understand.
Absolutely.
So I've had to do this before where it's like, you know, and you know, you can be kind, but be like, so do you have any experience with online dating? Like, what did you do that? And oh, well, no. I'm like, why don't I, let me just show you how this works here. I have literally pulled out an app before, because I think a lot of, you know, that the older generation we keep talking about, I think they think this is like a Prince Charming vending machine.
That is the perfect analogy.
Like, literally.
Yes. They're like, just pick one.
Just
I don't know why this is so hard.
No. Like, I literally pulled out my app and was like, do you want to see what I'm choosing from here? And they're like, oh. I'm like, exactly. This is not just like, oh, is it Prince William or Prince Harry? Like, which one are you taking? No, it is not the case. So just feel the freedom to help people understand that don't understand if they are continuing to insert themselves.
You can speak the truth in love.
Yes,
you don't get to be rude or too snarky.
Right.
But you can enlighten people.
Yes.
Kindly.
There you go.
That is A-okay.
There you go.
Okay. So, last one here.
Number 10.
And this, I think, is so important. It took me a lot of time to really grasp this one. So, I want to help you guys out. Maybe save you some time. Don't be afraid to say what you want when you're talking to someone. And what I mean by that is, if you are, you know, you're looking to get married, that is the point of dating to you. That is the point. Trying to find a spouse is why you were dating to begin with. It is okay when someone asks what you're looking for to say that. Now, we have this idea that, oh, I don't want to be too intense and scare the guy off. I'm not saying you have to tell him you're looking to get married tomorrow. You can say things in a way that's not intimidating. It's not like, oh my word, this girl's crazy. But you can tell him that marriage is your ultimate goal. Like, that's what you're working towards. You're getting to know people and evaluating to see if that would be a possibility down the road. Down the road. We're not talking about in the immediate future. We're talking down the road. But so that they know that's your mindset and that you're looking for someone who's doing the same. That is okay to say. And if he's even remotely on the same wavelength with that, that's not going to be a turnoff to him. That will be something that he's like, oh, yes, like I'm doing the same thing. And I will say, if he's not even remotely on the same wavelength with that, if that does like scare him off or freaks him out, like if you worded it well, then why do you want to be talking to him anyway? And I guess that's what it took me a while to just really fully grasp, is like, if who I am and what I want runs some guy off, why would I want his attention anyway?
No, you want to be lined up on those things. I don't care how cute he is.
Exactly.
Like, you want somebody who's going to share the same like views and values and goals and all of that when it comes to relationships. Exactly. And if he's like, I don't really know what I'm looking for. Sorry, that's my dopey man voice. I'm sorry. But if he's like, yo, I'm not sure what I'm looking for. I'm trying to figure this out. Okay, well, I am sure what I'm looking for. And I don't think this is a good pairing if you're still trying to figure that out, but thanks for your time.
Yep.
Peace.
Yeah, that is okay.
Mm-hmm.
So don't, again, if it's a matter of, I like having someone to talk to and there's not anyone else, so I'm just gonna keep talking to this guy even though I can't really tell him what I'm looking for and I don't want to like scare him off, or I don't want to be too deep about my faith or whatever. Like, those should be red flags that maybe you're not on the same page.
Yeah, you should never have to minimize anything that's important to you when you're dating somebody.
Yes.
And if you feel the need to do that, that's a red flag.
Yeah. And you don't, just because you're not maybe sharing every single detail about this thing that's important to you, you don't have to share every single detail of you're looking for marriage and this is what you want and this is what your husband needs to be like and this is what your home's going to be like. Just because you're sharing every detail of that doesn't mean you're minimizing it.
Yes.
Like, share commensurate to the amount of commitment and the length of time you've been talking, all of those things. But if marriage is important to you, say marriage is important to you.
Yes.
It can be just that. And then you talk about what does marriage look like later.
Exactly.
So, yeah, but don't minimize those things. If, they're those things that are big deals, then why waste time talking to a guy that it doesn't seem like it's a big deal to, just because you don't want to scare him off? Like,
yeah, that's good.
doesn't make sense. And it's really easy for me to sit here and tell you guys all that. I've been there. I have been on both sides of it. I've done it well. I've done it not well. So I get it. But it's very important.
Yes, that's good.
Okay. By my count, that was number 10.
That was number 10.
Okay, guys. So we have walked through the 10 things you should know before you start online dating. So now, if you know all these things now, we are ready to move on to step 2, which is we are going to take several weeks and break down specific sites for you guys. We're going to talk about eHarmony, Match, Christian Mingle, several of the swiping ones, and we're going to talk about ins and outs, pros and cons, things I like, things Kristen hates.
Both of those are long lists, for the record. No.
We'll talk
I'm going to be nice.
I know, I'm just giving you a hard time.
No.
But it is helpful to hear from, like, especially if you're an online dating skeptic, it's helpful to hear from someone else who is too.
That's true. She's validating my skepticism.
I am.
It's so sweet. Such a good friend.
So, we're going to talk through those specifics because we know you guys have asked a lot about, like, okay, which sites are better? I can only invest in one. Which one should I do? So we're going to break all of that down over the next few weeks, and we will get you guys on your way. But until then, I'm Bethany.
And I'm Kristen.
And this is Looking for the Middle.